And we welcome you to this edition of Night Shift. That was fun, was it not? Hopefully you guys could hear me pretty good there. Eric Lopez here as we're starting Night Shift here. UCF victorious. That's right, you heard us. Victorious over number 15 ranked Florida State. We're going to talk about that. Brian Murphy will join me in just a couple of minutes. We're just wrapping up post-game. What a victory. What a victory, ladies and gentlemen, for your UCF Knights. Was that fun or what? Wasn't that a fun 2 hours plus of basketball you just witnessed? And you just saw the future of this program. You saw Isaiah Adams. You saw guys, Brandon Mayhem making plays. But Isaiah Adams, we're going to talk a lot about Isaiah Adams, who is tremendous. Absolutely tremendous. I am still adjusting right now. Right there. We got tons of comments coming. This is phenomenal. This is exciting. It's really one of the most enjoyous wins that you could think of in this program. This is the 8th win against a ranked team for this program in the Division I era. It's the 5th in the Johnny Dawkins era. And I know this is especially sweet for a lot of people. It's an in-state rival. Florida State is a phenomenal team, a phenomenal program with Leonard Hamilton. And they're going to be really good. They're going to be really, really good. Like, they could still win the ACC this year. They're going to be fine. This was about UCF tonight. This was a UCF night. This was a big win for this program. With the youth of these guys, I mean, there better not be any more questions about what this team is capable of as far as recruiting and where this program is headed, if they have the right guy, etc., because they do. So that is tremendous. That is unbelievable. I'm still catching my breath about this win. It's still unbelievable. This was a team that was not that you get caught up in those numbers, but you're 14.5-point dog. This is, again, a Florida State team ranked 15th. It's going to be an ACC title contender. They got a lottery pick on their roster, and UCF just played lights out. They just played lights out basketball. If you can't get caught up and just excited about this team, maybe look at those numbers. Look at those numbers. Brandon Mayhem, hello, 32 points. Was unconscious in the second half. 10 of 13 from the field. 10 of 10 from the line. How about this team on the free throw line? 23 to 26 at the free throw line. 14 of 15 in the second half. Shot 50% from the field. 9 threes. Darren Green, 20 points. 6 of 9 from the three-point line. But Isaiah Adams, the freshman, Mr. Florida basketball, 22 points. 16 in the first half, really kept UCF in that game in that first half. And then Mayhem and Green kind of followed suit in that second half, especially Mayhem, who, by the way, now, remember, took over the second half of the Auburn victory and took over here tonight. Unbelievable. It's just an amazing game. But look at that, 8 rebounds for Adams, 6 for Mayhem. Astonishing performance, to say the least. It's just incredible. I'm reading some of the comments here. I'm going to read you some comments here. There's been a ton here. UCF, hell of a game. Just wow. Micah Rakowski writing in. Dylan Payne, let's go. Boy, does this team have a bright future ahead of it. Yes, they do. Let's bring in now the man who is still shaking. Probably wishes he was there, but hey.
Oh!
Look at him.
Why am I not there?
Unbelievable. Brian Murphy, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, hello.
Not in Tallahassee, so he's upset that he's not there. I'm happy because at least I have somebody to talk to here for a little bit. Wow. Brian, I'm still in shock. I was glad that you asked a lot of questions in the post game and other people's, like our friends did, because speechless what I just saw. That was an amazing 2 hours of UCF basketball. An incredible, and it's a regular season game, and things, but for this program, with the for Coach Dawkins. It's not the biggest win of his career, but it's a significant win because I think people now can see what the vision is with this program. Wow. They just went into the Donald L. Tucker Center and beat the reigning ACC champions, a team that might win the ACC again, and scored 86 on – wow. All right, I'm just going to let you talk here and put some elegant words into it.
Well, where do you begin? Like, where do you start? There's so many things we could talk about that worked so well for this team. There was like a 6-minute stretch in that first half where the offense looked really wonky, and this looked like a team that had not played in 2 weeks, which, again, they had not. But then, like, from there, everything worked. That second half was perfect. The second half, everything worked. Didn't matter. Like, Darius Perry gets stripped. Doesn't matter. I'm gonna go collect it 60 feet away from the basket and just drive the hoop for a layup. It's amazing. And yeah, this is not the best win in school history. I think it's one of the best wins ever. Yes, I would still rank, like, if we're gonna get into rankings, like, the VCU win in the tournament is still very important. The Cincinnati win, the Houston win. But this is not about one game. This is about the next 3 years, right? And you see the nucleus here of an Adams, a Green, CJ Walker, depending on how long he's going to stay in college, and just that development coming along for the next 2 or 3 years. I mean, this team is, Eric, I hate to say it, UCF basketball is like fun to watch. This was like aesthetically pleasing basketball. Like, UCF is like running and gunning. What is like Rick Pitino coaching this team? What is this? Man. Eric, I can't hear you.
Well, that's because I muted myself. I'm that excited right now that I've muted myself because I'm still in speechless words. All right, so here's my thoughts on the offense. I thought that it was brilliant how they spread the ball out, really floored and really kind of forced FSU to cover the whole court and play man-to-man, and they drove. They were aggressive, right? They drive and either kick it out for the Darren 3 or took it to the basket, which is what Mahan has done. And guys like Isaiah Adams, who we will spend plenty of time talking about. But it's almost like, and I wonder if Coach Dawkins and the staff they saw what happened against Michigan in the half court. Now, Darius Perry was returned, which shocked us all. But still, I wonder if he fit with the athletes they have, if they're just better playing faster. And especially in this type of matchup against the Florida State and the bigs, they knew in a half-court game it was going to be tough to score against them unless you moved. And, boy, they spread the ball out. And then, again, Mahan was what do you make of Brandon Mahan? 32 points. It says it right there. Second time in the 3 games he's dominated the second half. He was the same dominant player against Auburn. But this game, he took it to a different level. And he's been a different guy than what we saw a year ago.
Yeah, I think a year ago, right, he was like a microwave shooter, kind of like a Darren Green kind of, but you're seeing more aggressiveness out of him as a driver. You saw that all night tonight. And Eric, you brought it up, but I will accentuate it by saying that when this team had an opportunity to drive, no matter if it was 25 seconds on the play clock or 5, they were going to do it, which is something they got away from in Michigan. We talked about that, how they were doing it very early with success. Then Michigan brought in some bigger guys, and UCF started jacking up shots from the perimeter, and everything fell apart. UCF now in this game said, screw it. Whenever we find a lane, we're going to run as soon as possible if need be. They did it to so much success. They had 32 points in the paint tonight against, again, a big team in FSU. And Brandon Mahan in the second half was just sort of in one of those flows where it's like he's unconscious, right? He's just – everything is going down. Like, he took a couple of threes that were the classic no, yes, kind of shots where like, oh, that's a bad shot. It's a great shot. And then he was driving with success. And, he really kind of took the game over in the second half. But, the stage was set by Isaiah Adams. He is the star of the game. Darren Green does what Darren Green does, right? Some nights are going to be hit or miss, like literally. And he's been missing the first 2 games. Tonight he was locked in. I think it helps him when the first shot goes down, right? But Isaiah Adams, we have a star. We have an absolute star on this team. He's a true freshman. Yep. He's Mr. Florida basketball. He does everything tonight. And he played with some foul trouble in the second half too, which I was impressed with. But 22 points, 8 rebounds, a couple of assists. I think he had 3 steals. And 36 minutes. Really just an impressive performance by a freshman.
Ryan, I'm not even going to wait till the podcast. I'm going to make this announcement right now on this night shift show, ladies and gentlemen. For those who are joining us, my name is Eric Lopez, and I am the advocate for Mr. UCF basketball, Isaiah Adams.
You got to say it with some gravel in your voice. Isaiah Adams.
I would if it wasn't like 18 minutes till before midnight, but otherwise I would yell that out. Listen, man. Wow. I tweeted this out at halftime. We scored 16 in the first half. I thought it was the best half I've ever seen a UCF basketball player as a freshman put on a show at Tallahassee. Really kept them in that game because really, Darren hit a couple shots, but for the most part, the offense was pretty much Isaiah Adams. And this was his first start. Start.
It's his third game. It's his third game, Eric. It's his third game in college, and they hadn't played in 2 weeks. And they're playing the number 15 in the country, 15 team in the country, and a team that never loses at home, a big team, a very good team. And he, in the first half, is the best player on the floor. And he's playing on the floor with a lottery pick in Scotty Barnes.
He outplayed Scotty Barnes. He outplayed MJ. He outplayed everybody. Nobody in Florida State. Leonard Hamilton prides himself of having guys that can defend. Nobody could defend this kid.
And I know, like my voice is cracking, like I'm going through puberty all over again. But that's because we don't get these kinds of kids at UCF, right? We don't get these kinds of freshmen that look like, oh my God, he's an absolute star right now. And like if I was a Kentucky fan, it'd be different. I'd be like, wow, it's another good, nice player we've got here. But no, this is UCF, and for UCF to get a kid in here in his third game look like the best player on the floor against the number 15 team in the nation. Like I have like dreams of grandeur right now as far as like the ceiling for Isaiah Adams because it's immensely high.
He might be the best freshman I've seen at UCF, and I'm not. And look, I know it sounds like it's in the moment. I've followed this program for a long time. You covered Jermaine Taylor when he arrived there, and he showed signs. But I remember Jermaine as a freshman being the best player on the court against the number 15 ranked team in the country on the road. This kid can score, and he has that knack, right? Like he knows how to get to the basket. He knows how to draw contact. You could just see the signs of the great scorers that know how to put the ball in the basket and finding different ways to score. That's one of the things that's lacking in college basketball. It separates the good from the great players, is that knack of knowing how to put the ball in the basket no matter what. And he has that. He has that already.
They mentioned it a couple times in the broadcast, right? His irrational confidence. And we asked Brandon Mahan about that after the game, and he said, that kid's got a lot of talent. He ain't afraid. And he's clearly not. And, at the end of the game, he makes this like really tough physical layup where he kind of gets bodied, but he sets it up for an and one. And he's got this little smirk on his face. Like, man, I know how good I am. Like, I know I can do this. Like, and that's the scary part. Like, he knows he's so good and he just doesn't care. This is fun. I mean, even if UCF had lost this game, there'd be so much we could talk about because we saw so much growth from a lot of these kids tonight. But they didn't just play well. They dominated the top 15 team in the country, a top 15 team in the country in the second half. Like they really dominated them.
What's amazing about him is if we didn't have game notes, if we didn't know any backgrounds, you would not know that he's a freshman.
Yeah,
right.
Doesn't look like it.
No, and he led the team in rebounds. By the way. 8 rebounds. And you highlighted that throughout the game, tweeting the rebounding battle. UCF won the boards battle against Florida State. That's incredible. Such a far cry from the Michigan game there. 8 rebounds for Adams, 6 for Mahan, 5 for Dre Fuller, who you look at this box score, 2 points, 5 boards, 4 assists. It doesn't jump out. But this guy probably was guarding MJ Walker, Scotty Barnes most of the night and helping bringing the ball up. So I don't think Dre Fuller should be judged on the box score. I think his value is more than the box score. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And because, again, he is a good wing defender. Like, he's got that too. The fact that UCF has more offensive rebounds than Florida State makes absolutely zero sense. Other than obviously it shows you how hard and with so much energy, how much energy UCF played with in this game. For them to get more offensive boards than Florida State, who's one of the top 20 offensive rebounding team in the nation, it just tells you how hard this team was. Maybe it was like, hey, 2 weeks off. They were embarrassed at Michigan, right? Then you get 2 weeks off to sort of like really stew on it, and they played with zero abandon tonight. They just said, screw it, we're going to go out here and try to play fast and play hard, and they did that. And it looked kind of rocky in the first half offensively, especially in the half court sets. But man, oh man, they found their guys. Some guys got hot, and they just didn't let up. It wasn't like they didn't get tight. You're up by 6 with 5 minutes to play. You think that young players would get tight? That didn't happen. They just kept playing their game. And I think Johnny Dawkins, it's something he said after the game in the post-game press conference. He said what impressed him most about tonight's game was his team's composure and their concentration throughout. Because they absolutely could have felt the burden of what this win would mean, the impact of it, and collapsed under the weight of that. And they just didn't do it. They just kept going.
One of the interesting stories, Darius Perry made his night's debut, which surprised us. I think Coach Dawkins may have pump faked us here, Murph, on the media availability there.
Eric, he said, now I wasn't in there, but he said, we'll let you know when he's ready to play.
Oh, he was ready tonight. Scored 6 points in 18 minutes, had 3 fouls. Obviously, they were cautious with him, but he was active and really made a big layup late in that second half. Scotty Barnes was on him. Barnes deflected the ball. It was a really big moment in the game. I think it was like a 6-point game at the time. The ball goes towards the backcourt. Perry picks it up, drives past Barnes with a good pick, and drives to the basket and scored. I thought that was a huge moment, and that's the exciting thing. Now that he's healthy, you've got a true point guard here. I mean, that's the thing. And I thought, even though he only played 18 minutes, I thought that was very valuable, clearly, to have somebody there, a ball handler that can at least give you 18 minutes in his first action.
Yeah, and Johnny Dawkins admitted, Darius is not in basketball shape yet. Obviously not. You would not expect him to be because he's been out for a while nursing an injury. But you can see the improvement over Dre Fuller, right, who's just not made to be a point guard. And Dre, in times early on when he was playing the point, but Darius was next up, Dre really couldn't get this team set very well in the half-court offense. And so when Darius came in, it seemed like everything was a little more calm. It was a little more well-situated. They got into better sets, better shots. It wasn't just frantic. And that's only going to improve as Darius, gets his legs under him and gets more minutes.
Let me go back to some of the comments from our fans here. And again, subscribe to our YouTube page. We'll be doing this frequently throughout the season with various sports, depending on the circumstances and news like that. So make sure you give us a like, thumbs up there, and subscribe so you can like us there, and ladies and gentlemen, as well. I'm reading some of the comments. Dylan Payne, wow, Isaiah Adams. Yeah, I would say wow is a good word to describe him. Cossack advisor, young, long, athletic, so good, and having a point guard on the court was a stabilizer for this team.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Pretty fair. He says, Adams is playing out of his world, way better than I even imagined. Energy, effective energy. Lastly, and then free throws. Yeah, they're about the free throws, Murph.
No, I know. I'm looking at it now. My God. Eric, UCF is making their free throws this year. What?
I did a Q&A with Tomahawk Nation and Austin Cox, and we talked about the free throws, and I remember I asked you about that question. You're like, oh, that's a fluky thing, and it is. We didn't use that in the Q&A parts, but
no, yeah, you asked him about the UCF's free throw defense is second in the nation at 50%. Yeah, that's because that's the metric of what your opponents shoot against you from the line. You don't do anything to cause that.
No. But what I did say, free throw battles, that's what Johnny Dawkins says. Look at this. Florida State was 16 of 26 at the line, 9 of 17 in the second half. UCF was 23 of 26. 14 of 15 in the second half. They won the free throw battle, Murph. We've talked about this in past years on Coach Dawkins' philosophy to win the free throw battle. And they did. They did win the free throw battle against Auburn, and they won the free throw battle against Florida State. You could say that they're missing free throws, but here's the thing. UCF's making free throws. And all of a sudden, games like last year where you lost some games in part because you missed some free throws are turning into victories perhaps this year. If this team could continue to shoot free throws, Adams was 9 of 12. Mayhem has become rock solid. Like, you trust him at the line. He's 10 for 10. Darren's 2 for 2. So the right guys are getting to the line, I guess, Murph. I mean, that would be.
I don't. It's really hard to say, right? Because it's not like there's a ton of. It's not like you mentioned a couple guys who have been here, right? So it's not like all of a sudden like they're going to be like 65% free throw shooters to 90% free throw shooters. I don't know what makes that possible. What is amazing though is for anyone who has followed UCF basketball for the past handful of years, you know that you would hope this team could hit 70% from the free throw line. And more often than not, you were left disappointed because that did not happen. This team has not been a good free throw shooting program for 3 or 4 years now. And yet, after this game, they are the second best free throw shooting team in the nation. They shot 85% coming into this game and then shot 88% tonight. And again, it's hard to say like, well, here's what made the difference because it's free throw shooting. Like it's really hard to say. But like right now, they're going in and they're making a gigantic difference. I mean, I don't expect this offense to continue to be this explosive. And I understand, like, maybe that'll be like a frozen cold take, like once we come back in a month and this offense looks great. But because of the way this team is usually run, it's really difficult for me to get used to this kind of scoring. So I'm going to hedge it a little bit and say that it won't stay like this. But when you're this efficient from the free throw line, it makes your life so much easier offensively because now you're not scared about a missed shot because you can try to get there, get a foul, and get to the line and get a point or two. And it makes things totally different.
Michael Rakowski makes an interesting point, and I want to address this. Better get used to positionless basketball, playing with no center. Murph, that's the thing with this staff. They can play small. They're not just forced to play big. They can play small because you can play CJ Walker at center. This is, we've seen this. It's completely different than what the Taco teams, when you had Taco and Colin and you play with size. This team, I feel like they're comfortable playing small, playing a Mayhem maybe at power forward. What do you think about small ball? Could we see could that be the identity of this team, playing more positionless basketball and not play so much size like we have in the previous years in Coach Dawkins' teams?
Yeah, because it puts your best 5 players on the floor. And you have the length in guys who are 6'6", 6'8", to still hang in there offensively with rebounding. Again, great rebounding teams don't have to be tall, right? You just need to have a lot of good effort. Houston, for the past handful of years, while they've been great under Kelvin Sampson, has been a relatively small team and have always been great rebounding because of body position and sort of a knack for knowing when the ball is going to come off and just fighting for boards. So, and in this time when you can play positionless, and UCF can, because like I said, CJ Walker can play the 4 or the 5 or the 3. Isaiah Adams looks like he could play anywhere from the 2 to the 5. Like, honestly, it doesn't matter. Brandon Mahan has flexibility. Dre Fuller has flexibility. He can play the 1 up to the 3. That helps you. That lengthens your lineup, gives you a possibility to throw more looks at on defense, which I think what you saw tonight, and a reason why Scotty Barnes struggled because UCF threw so many different looks at him. And it just, I think at this point you have to do that because it puts your best players on the floor. Avery Diggs played 1 minute tonight. I did see him. He did play 1 minute. Ibrahim Fumuke-Doumbia played 2 minutes, and those are your bigger players. But they're not good right now. And you got to put your best players out there, and they're making it work.
Well, and I thought I think he saw that, look, we're not going to beat FSU going size for size.
Yeah. So
let's try to outquick them. And he did. He adapted to that. It was almost kind of what you've seen in the NBA where teams are like, look, we're not going to be able to match up with your size, so we're just going to try to slash and dash past you and outquick you. And they did. And I thought they rattled Florida State offensively at times because of that in the second half. Gray, their big guy, when he got his 4th foul, that's when really UCF took advantage and really attacked them. And, Leonard likes to play 10, 11 guys. And Leonard Hamilton, I watched his media availability on Friday, which Murph, you'll love this. His media availability, 37 minutes.
Oh, baby. Well, I guess football season's over, so we have more time to talk basketball.
37 minutes. I couldn't believe it.
That sounds like a Mike Oresco press conference. Boy, howdy.
He does like to talk. He does like to talk. But he admitted he didn't really know a lot about UCF because they haven't been on the court a lot. Mm-hmm. And because of everything that's gone on, he's still trying to figure out his own rotation. And I think you saw a little bit of that as well. I don't think they really knew. I don't think they expected UCF to play small because how could you? You've really you've only seen 2 sample games of UCF. It's not like, you're wondering, we should be able to dominate them inside. I don't think they were prepared for what UCF brought them at all.
Maybe. I think it's more of UCF offensively was extremely efficient, and I don't expect them to hit 50% of their threes every night, right? So that's not going to happen. But Darren Green was hot. Isaiah Adams sort of took over and was fearless, and they didn't really have a good way to stop him. And then in the second half, Brandon Mahan, everything he did worked. And even some things where, again, like some of the things Brandon Mahan did are, he's going to miss those shots sometimes, and you're going to go like, that's a bad shot. But tonight it all worked. And I think they were done in by the fact that UCF's offense was just clicking. And I don't think it's always going to be like this. But they didn't have an answer for that offensively because on the other side of the floor, UCF's defense, they're being multiple defensively, really hurt the Seminoles, especially below the arc. It really was hard for them to get anything, in that 15 and in range because UCF was throwing a lot of bodies at them, a lot of limbs, a lot of different looks. I think that is the one thing that maybe caught FSU off guard was how UCF would play defensively because again, like there's only 2 games of tape and we haven't seen this team in 2 weeks.
Well, in the last game tape they saw, the Michigan game, they would have thought, oh, this is going to be a picnic because this defense was completely different than that defense that played in Ann Arbor.
Absolutely, and I think a lot of it is just effort. Like the second half of that Michigan game, man, I just think there was a run there where maybe offensively it led over to bad defense and that hurt them. But tonight, when they were bad offensively, the defense was still pretty good. It was I think the worst stretch of defense was early on. I commented about it. I think at the under 16 or under 12 timeout in the first half, their defense was over pursuing. They were kind of too frantic. They were running guys. Guys were getting faked out on ball fakes. But I think they all settled down. One thing I want to mention too, UCF had I think 6 turnovers in the first 12 minutes. They then had 7 in the last 28 or 28. Again, that's going to help you win a lot of games when you don't turn the ball over. And a lot of that was because of Darius Perry, I think, as well.
Those 18 minutes. Mike Doty made a great stat here. FSU had not lost a home non-conference game since 2014. I think it might have been the Florida game. In fact, I was at the game. He mentions UCF, the streak were currently on, started against UCF in 2014. Obviously came to an end tonight against UCF. That's pretty funny. I was at that UCF game in 2014. Florida State blew as hell. This was a much better game. But this team has only lost now, I believe, 4 games at the Donald Tucker Center. Now, I know, look, it's different circumstances. There's, the crowds are obviously limited and all that. But this team has been a tough team to beat at their place. Leonard has done a nice job building that program with a home court advantage. And regardless, to go up there at 9 o'clock tip, and beat them, and score 86 on them. I promise you, there may not be a team that scores more points than UCF did tonight against Florida State the rest of the year.
That's a good point. Absolutely.
And they're 2-1, by the way, Murph. Now I know the schedule has changed a little bit, but remember when we did the basketball we looked at that schedule like, oh boy, Auburn and Houston. Now they got Houston, they got postponed a little bit, but they got 2 wins right now against Auburn and they got a win against Florida State. And I know it's early, but that's pretty good resume building right there. I mean, Auburn, who by the way beat Memphis in Atlanta. So it's not like Auburn is like, oh, maybe they're not very good and all. And they beat Memphis. And Florida State, I still believe, is going to be an ACC title contender alongside North Carolina and Duke. They'll be fine. But that's a significant win and a significant road win. And Johnny Dawkins, by the way, Doty mentions that non-conference streak. Correct me if I'm wrong, Murph. UCF ended a long home winning streak of Houston 2 years ago, right? Where you were there. Didn't Houston also have a long win streak up there?
Yeah, it was like 34 games in a row or something like that. I'll look it up. But yeah, I think it was like 34 games.
So the moral of the story, if you got a long home winning streak in basketball, if UCF's in town, you're in trouble.
Well, I know, I forgot what it was said, because I think Brandon Helwig from Rivals, UCF Rivals, mentioned it in the postgame to Johnny that FSU was like 69-4 now.
Yep, that's correct.
In the Tucker Center. Like, it's absurd.
It's a tough play. Yeah. This is the 8th win in program history. They're now 8-47 all time against top 25 teams. This is the 5th win, as I mentioned earlier, under Johnny Dawkins. They're 5-12, Murph. And this is obviously, you look at the wins they've had, and obviously most of them in the conference. You had a couple top 25 wins against Cincinnati at home, the win at Houston, who was ranked 6th, and now, the win at Alabama, which was their last non-conference top 25 win. That was the Colin Sexton Alabama team too, by the way, with Avery Johnson as head coach. That was on December 3rd, 2017. People may not remember that game because that was the day. Yeah, Murph knows why. That was the day after UCF had beaten Memphis in the American Conference Championship game, and whoever the head coach was, he, I guess, abruptly resigned afterwards. But we don't need to get into that right now. But
it was Troy Walters. It was Troy Walters.
It was the interim head coach. It was the interim head coach.
I remember listening to the Alabama game and Mark on the radio while driving to campus because we had to go talk to Troy Walters about being the interim coach against Auburn in the Peach Bowl.
Or so we thought. That's correct. Yes. That tells you that's what a wild weekend that was. That's pretty amazing. But that's how big. 5 wins with Dawkins, man. And Murph, we've talked about this on the podcast. He's not afraid to play anybody. He'll play you anywhere, anytime. The scheduling has gone up, and he's not afraid to play top 25 teams, and he's getting victories. It's not like, now I think the mindset as a UCF fan to some extent changes. It used to be, man, we're playing a top 25 team. I don't know. Now at least you're like, hey, we've done this before. Maybe it could happen. I mean, they're like they won at Houston, which nobody gave them a shot in game day. They win here where they were a 14.5-point underdog. What does that say about Coach Dawkins there and really getting 5 wins already in his run here during his era? Some pretty memorable wins. He's
a fantastic coach. We're lucky to have him. I think Evan Fitzgerald brought up a good point on Twitter that he's also just a great man, a great teacher, a great leader. Like, it's not just him being a coach. Like, Johnny Dawkins is the real deal, all through and through. And people have given him crap a lot because sometimes his team can be mediocre. But if you look behind the curtain of some of the more mediocre years this team has had, they've had a lot of injuries. Last year they had 9 new players. They're still getting winning records, even in all these seasons where they're not good. And now he's got this team that looks like is on the ascent. They're back on the ascent again. I will, I guess, give one word of warning, right? Because, I don't want to completely throw the Michigan game out and forget it. And, we talked about this game. We talked about this FSU game on the podcast this week, Eric. And we were admittedly underselling it because
we spent more time trashing the tip time on the actual game. Oh boy! And we laughed.
I wasn't the only one trashing the tip time. That tip time is awful. It's currently midnight. There's no reason why we should, be doing this at midnight. Why can't we do this at 5 o'clock and have a game at 3? But I digress. We were trashing. We were kind of underplaying this game because the Michigan game was the last thing we saw. Sure. And now they're going to go play undefeated FSU on the road, number 15, with a lottery pick and MJ Walker, this great scorer. Like, this isn't going to probably be very good, is it? This is going to be pretty bad. And then this happens. All right, great, fantastic. Now, which UCF team am I going to get on Tuesday against Cincinnati?
Oh man, yeah, they played. They played Georgia tonight. I don't know if anybody has a score on that, but
I know they were. I thought they were down.
They probably were. No, you're right. Look, while you look that up, that's a valid point. While you look that up, that's a valid point. There's going to be ups and downs, but here's why. I mean, yes, I'm shocked. I'm shocked we're even doing this show. Okay. I mean, it's 5 minutes past midnight. It's 5 minutes into my birthday. I did not expect my first 5 minutes of my birthday to be talking to you about a UCF boy, but I'll take it. And Florida lost to Alabama, everybody. So that's a good thing because we don't like those people in Gainesville. Alabama wins 52-46.
I have no problem with anybody in Gainesville, just for the record.
Nothing against him, but we don't, we don't like him. We don't, okay, right? Am I right? But my fans get a very. By the way, congratulations to Cincinnati. While we were watching basketball, they beat Tulsa, walk-off field goal, 27-24. So Cincinnati will represent the league in a New Year's Six Bowl, probably the Peach Bowl. Congrats to Luke Fickell and company. Well to represent the league, and hope they do well in the bowl game, because that's good for the league and it's good for everybody. So I just want to mention that on that. But screw that. Back to the good stuff here, basketball.
Yeah.
What's amazing, though, is the different why I think people are excited is you saw some of the promise, right? Mm-hmm. Like Isaiah Adams is must watch now. Like, yes, now the kid's a freshman. I think he's human. So he's probably going to have a down game here and there, but you could see the upside. And I think that's the thing that's exciting, because there were some people that question, well, can Coach Dawkins recruit? Can we do this and that? Yes, he can. Yes, he can.
Oh, no. Eric brings out his UCF troll voice after midnight.
That's going to be, you never know what's going to come out. But, right? I mean, that was the question. Well, can he recruit? Can he do this? He can do all of that with a program that, quite frankly, doesn't have all the advantages that other, like Houston, for example, which has renovated their arena. Calvin Sampson, I mean, that's a basketball school. They're behind that thing 100%. We're not that at UCF. We just don't. We don't have the resources and things like that. So keep that in mind with Coach Dawkins is doing. And I thought the broadcast made a great point. Programs like UCF, you're not going to be an NCAA tournament team every year. I think to be successful is to build it up. You're not going to have, I mean, outside of Isaiah, normally, you're not going to have a bunch of one and dones and NBA prospects spreading all over the court. But what you can have is a team that could be an NCAA tournament team every other year or so. And I think that's what Johnny's trying to lead this program to, and doing a great job in a great league to do it. And so I think it's, and you mentioned him, what a great man he is. And I don't think that should be undersold. He represents this university very well, Murph, right? Like, if you had to pick a spokesman for the university, he would be at the top of the list.
He's not Will Wade. I mean, there's a lot of bad basketball coaches out there who are just not good people. And I think we should all be happy to say that Johnny Dawkins is in the other group of, like, really outstanding gentlemen. And but yeah, I want to mention one thing. We haven't talked about CJ Walker a lot in this chat, and it's interesting to watch CJ in these first 3 games, because there's obviously so much hype around him. Obviously, he was the most hyped player of this team coming in. More hyped than Isaiah Adams, because, he was a 5-star prospect and he's this guy with all the NBA buzz around him. And you've seen him play. How do you describe his offensive game so far, Eric?
I think it's a work in progress. He's kind of going. I feel like he's going on too fast, right? Like, everything's a little too fast. Like, he's kind of like, there was that one instance in the first half where he just pulled up and really took, I thought, a questionable shot.
Yeah.
I thought he was too fast, but you know what? But here's the thing: his defense,
his defense.
Oh,
defense that's the best part.
Yes, because you could play him at center. He had 3 blocks in 28 minutes. He stayed out of foul trouble. He had a steal. He had 3 rebounds, and he alters shots. Remember, he was in foul trouble in the Michigan game, barely played, and I think that's something that we have learned, Murph. I know it's just small sample sizes. But while CJ, yes, his offense is a work in progress, and I also give him a pass on this. He hasn't had a point guard to play with yet, and I think he suffers from that because nobody's really feeding him the ball. There's something, one of the things that point guard's job is feeding guys like a CJ Walker the ball in the right places at the right time. I feel like that's not been the case so far with him. He's not somebody that's going to be able to create his own plays like a Mayhem or an Adams can. But what he is a defensive force inside. And I thought he brought that to this team tonight. And if he could stay on the court, he's a big X factor in that regard because it allows him to play small.
Yeah, or even outside, Eric. He goes to the perimeter too, and spreads out, and it makes it really difficult to do a lot of things. He clogs up passing lanes. He clogs up driving lanes. And he can switch. Again, the positionless defense, or positionless basketball. He is a gigantic part of that because he can play like 1 through 5, 2 through 5, with his athleticism. Like, I think, everyone sort of had this idea of like, well, he's a 5-star prospect and an NBA draft guy, then he must be outstanding. And clearly, there's a lot of work to be done on his game. But what he does have is athleticism in absolute spades. And with that athleticism and that length and his effort on defense, which is unstoppable because even though his offensive game struggles, he does not give up on defense. It does not carry over to his defensive side of playing. He makes this team better when he's on the floor, even when he really isn't much of an offensive player right now. He is so good defensively and gives up so much effort. I mean, how many rebounds did he have? He only had 3 rebounds, which is crazy to me because I felt like he was always fighting underneath, and that's part of his game. Is when he is in the paint, he's never going to give up on a loose ball. I really like what I see from him as far as just his energy, his effort. There's a lot of again. We talked about. You can sort of see the raw materials, and that's still there. Offensively, there's a lot of work there to be done, but it doesn't carry over to defense, and they need to keep him on the floor, even if it hurts them offensively, because he is that much of a game changer defensively.
Well, he could guard everybody on the court, like you said. And I think the reason he didn't have more rebounds because he's battling a bunch of trees in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the big thing was Gray, their big guy for Florida State, got in foul trouble, and they were banging and everything like that. That was a key factor in the game. He reminds me of Chad Brown, only with more skills, because Chad Brown was that type, energy guy, banger. The difference is Walker's got more skill, more handle. I think his offense right now is just so rushed. Like I feel like he's going 80 when he should be going 50.
I mean, even when they're throwing outlet passes to him, it's like when the ball's coming his way, it's almost like he's looking to do something before he's even catching the ball. And now the ball falls out of his hand, and now we're running after it. And when he does set up, again, he is rushing. He's rushing on the baseline. He did take that jumper in the lane that hit nothing but backboard. And yeah, that's kind of cringy, but it doesn't carry over to defense. And as long as that doesn't happen, Coach Dawkins is going to play you. And no, he's very valuable.
And I think he'll benefit from Darius Perry coming back. And remember, Walker missed time prior, right? Camp had an injury.
Yes.
Which we don't.
Well, yes, he did.
So without knowing all the specifics there, he might still be catching up too. And not having a point guard, I'm curious to see. I think his best basketball is clearly ahead of him. And I think having a Perry back he'll be the biggest benefactor from that, because I think Perry will be able to feed him the ball. People are asking about Jameel Reynolds. Was he available for this game? No. According to Mark Daniels on the radio pregame, he did not make the trip. So that's all we're going to say about that. But
we don't need to speculate because you don't know.
But he's another kid, right? Like what? I mean, that's a freshman. I mean, that's a big kid that will hopefully contribute to this team moving forward. Has started, so we'll see what happens with that. So we'll see. We'll see on that one. Getting Beza and Gray in foul trouble won this game. Agreed. And that was because UCF was aggressive, attacked the Knowles bigs, Murph. And you mentioned it earlier, you make free throws, you tend to be a lot more confident to drive to the basket. You're not going to shy away from contact.
They absolutely did. I mean, UCF showed no fear, and they stuck with it. And yeah, I'm totally fine with Darren Green taking threes. Like that's his gig. And so when he's taking threes, that's totally fine. It gets a little wary when, I hope Brandon Mahan doesn't all of a sudden trust his outside jumper to become his job. That's his offense, because it shouldn't be. This team has now shown in 2 games, really 3 games, but including the Michigan game too. This team is best offensively when it's moving forward and not settling around the perimeter. This team has to push and then drive and kick for open shooters, which you saw a couple times tonight, and it worked out well. You can let Darren Green do his job above the lines, but everyone else needs to go forward, and it worked out brilliantly tonight. And with guys like Mahan and Adams and Fuller, and even sometimes Walker, they've got guys that can do that. And so, I just think this team knows what it is offensively right now. I think it really does. I think it really does know where it's best offensively. The key is now, with this game being on tape, how the opponents coming up, Cincinnati and going forward, adjust to that. Because obviously now you're going to see teams adjust to this and try to keep them out of the paint. Well, how do they then counteract that? And this is all the cat and mouse game of sports in general, but certainly basketball.
Mike asked, which do you think was the most important thing that happened tonight? Green's 3-point shooting, Adams coming alive, or the team's free throw shooting?
Adams. Green's 3-point shooting is always going to, it is what it is. Like, you live and die with it. Like, he's going to have nights where he goes 2 for 9 or 1 for 6, like he did against Michigan, and he wasn't very good against Auburn. And then tonight, he hits his first shot. It's a Darren Green night, but that's going to come and go. And the free throw shooting, I'm not sure what I don't know. I don't know, Eric. I'm not ready.
Well, to believe it. Here's the worst thing about it. We can't. If you ask Dawkins about it, he's going to completely get mad at you because with superstition, they don't even want to address it. He's not even going to address it. I'm telling you, don't even ask him about it because he's going to, by the way, Cincinnati lost 83-68 to Georgia.
They're now 2-4 this year. Cincinnati is, although Georgia hasn't really beaten anybody of note. They're 6-0. But yeah, Cincinnati having a rough go of it so far. But to go back to the question, it's Adams because I think Darren Green is who he is, and the free throw shooting I'm not willing to trust yet. But you saw a star come alive tonight. This is a birth of a star. This is a monumental game, not only because they beat Florida State, who's ranked. This is the start of Isaiah Adams. This could be the start of the next hopefully 3 or 4 years of one of the best players in program history. And I know that sounds crazy because he's only played 3 games. But when you see what he did tonight against this team, and he's this young and this confident and this ready and this multiple offensively and defensively, this is what this game is. This game was about the coming out party for Isaiah Adams.
Well, as his newly acquainted announced advocate for Mr. UCF basketball, I don't think that's a very crazy statement at all, but that's just me. Yeah, we're going to use that. I got dibs on that, all right? If somebody else starts calling Mr. UCF basketball, I came up with that because I'm his advocate. Man.
He's the reigning and defending Mr. UCF basketball, right?
That's right, man. That Mr. Florida basketball last year, he's going to be Mr. UCF basketball here for years to come. And you said, and somebody made a great point here. The Adams recruitment is huge for Dawkins. Might be the most significant recruit for him because it tells you that he can recruit. So all those critics is, I don't know if he can recruit. Shut up. Just shut up. Just go away.
And not only that, it shows other players of that caliber 2 things. Obviously, it needs Adams to continue to play this well. Yes. Because I think it'd be different if Adams came in and wasn't getting a lot of playing time as a rookie and kind of looked lost in the system. But he's playing well immediately. He's playing lots of minutes immediately. He's getting a start in his 3rd game, and he's doing a lot with it. But in general, it gives players of that ilk, of that talent level, the insight and the clue that, I can go to UCF now because guys who were the best player in the state of Florida have gone to UCF and have succeeded there. And I know it again. We are coronating Isaiah Adams way too early, but hell, we coronated Dylan Gabriel after the Stanford game last year, and that's worked out fine. So I think this is one that we can feel both pretty safe on, that Isaiah Adams is here to stay. He is a star, and he's going to help influence other players of his talent level to say, you can come to UCF too and play a lot because I've done it and I succeeded there as well.
He's the next big thing.
Absolutely.
Just like Brock. Hey, Brock Lesnar was crowned early. It worked out for him. So that's all right. Man, imagine this team with Tony Johnson back. Scary. Well, that's great. They still don't have Tony. We don't know when he'll be back. But
it's gonna be a while, right? It's gonna be a long while.
That's unfortunate. But man, if they can somehow get him back, that's a nice little score off the bench because he can score too. And he's shown signs of that. Somebody's compared CJ to Taco's presence on defense. Well, they're different, but what's cool about CJ is, you mentioned this, Murph, they're different. Like Taco is a wall. You just didn't try to go inside. I think teams will still try to go inside on CJ. But CJ, you could keep him on the court and guard anybody. Whereas Taco, at times, there were certain times where you're like, ooh, I don't think he could stay on the court. That's not the case with CJ because he's so athletic.
Yes, Taco wasn't coming out 20 feet from the basket. You didn't want that. CJ can do that and do that well. And so, his ability to guard all positions at all levels. And you saw it tonight. Even in a game where you look at the box score and you go, 4 points, 2 of 8, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, whatever. Nah, watch the game. He's out there impacting every defensive possession through his energy, his effort, his wingspan, his leaving ability, all that stuff. And again, Taco is a different animal completely. Taco is the guy that you keep everyone out of the paint. CJ is the guy where he's going to challenge you to even get, even past him outside the 3-point line. So it's, but he can have a big impact. Absolutely.
I think a lot of excitement about that. A lot of people praising Darius. I had that Q&A with Tomahawk Nation, and they saw Darius Perry last year because he played at Louisville. And Austin Cox, the kid at Tomahawk Nation, will have part 2, by the way, of that this upcoming week at blackandgoldbanneret.com. We did a big in-depth Q&A on Mackenzie Milton from the Florida State perspective. So some of the questions that haven't been answered or asked yet about, hey, what about what's going to be around Mackenzie? That'll be on that. Jeff won't be happy because that's like 10 questions in there. So it's going to be real lengthy.
Oh, boy.
10 for KZ.
Jeff's gonna hate it. Jeff's gonna hate editing that. He's gonna hate editing that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Murph. Oh, wait, look, hold on. I got to show you this in 1 second here. I'm still new with this technology, ladies and gentlemen. But you're gonna the Isaiah. We're not the only ones now on the Isaiah Adams bandwagon. Here we go. Look at that. Look at that.
Wait, what's happening now?
John Rothstein. Isaiah Adams, buy stock now.
Yeah, John Rothstein's in on Isaiah Adams. I mean, look, when John Rothstein is highlighting a player in a tweet, that's gonna be on his shirt. That's gonna be on his shirt at some point soon, Eric. Get your Isaiah Adams buy stock now t-shirts at John Rothstein's website coming shortly. I'm guaranteeing it.
Yeah, explain the John the shirt reference there. I don't know if people may not follow Isaiah Adams.
People who don't follow John Rothstein, he has these sayings about coaches and players that he is stuck with for years now, and they've become so popular in the college basketball atmosphere that they've become t-shirt slogans, and he's put them on t-shirts, and people are buying them. And hell, if someone wants to make a shirt that says Isaiah Adams buy stock now and put it on a t-shirt, like I'll pay like $15, $20 for that. Sure.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. What do we think? What do you think? What would you put the odds here that right now John Rothstein's blowing up Dan Forcella's phone to try to get Johnny Dawkins on his podcast? What do we think? 20% chance? What do you think?
Definitely going after him hard tomorrow. Maybe a little late right now, but definitely tomorrow morning. First thing, John Rothstein gets up early. Gets up at like 6 o'clock every day. He's calling in Dan Forcella right away.
That's like and then oh my goodness, that is that I hope that happens. That'd be cool. I'd be all for that if that happens. By the way, speaking of Dan, here's the UCF Twitter account. Look at that graphics, baby, on the fly.
Yeah, nice.
Darren Green, Isaiah Adams, Brandon Mayhem.
It's amazing. I mean, this is also weird because like I hope this offense doesn't just become a 90% three guys scoring all the points sort of thing. Like this is great. But like, I sure would like to see more offensive like versatility in terms of scoring going forward. This isn't always going to.
I'm just happy we had 3 guys. I was worried if we had even 2 guys. What are you talking about? At halftime, I'm like, is somebody else going to score other than Isaiah? I'll take 3 guys if they're going to score. If they're going to score 74 points between them, I'll take that. If they want to be the 3, I'll give them any nickname.
Yeah, I mean, they scored 74 of 86 at one point. I think those 3 scored like 49 of 53. Like it was them doing all of it. But hey, yeah, I guess take it for what it is and then move on to the next game. But this is a big night, Eric. This is a big night, not just because it's a big win against a ranked team, but we talked about how this is the game where you see the next 2 or 3 years for this program, and it's just so weird how this happens in sports. That they can go out, get embarrassed at Michigan, are put on the sideline for 2 weeks because of nothing in their fault, nothing that they did the fault of their own, but they don't play for 2 weeks, come out, go on the road late at night, and outscore the number 15 team in the nation 52-35 in the second half. What?
By the way, Dylan Payne, credit to you. He posted FSU basketball has 4 losses at home. Of those losses, they lost to Louisville in 2017-18 season, so that was probably 2018.
Probably with Darius Perry.
Oh, that's good. That's pretty good. That'd be funny. Then they lost to Virginia 59-55, but that was one of the great, that was one of those strong Tony Bennett teams.
Well, what year was that?
According to 2017-18, so that same year, so 2018.
All right, they won that's the Virginia team that lost to UMBC.
Wow,
so won the title next year, right?
59, 59-55. They lost in 2019 to number 1 ranked Duke. You know that team pretty well. That Duke team, we know them pretty well, don't we?
We saw them. Saw him.
That was the game where I don't remember if Zion played in that game because he might have been hurt or he got hurt previous to that. Who knows? Who cares? It's still Duke. And now UCF. Now UCF's on that list. By the way, we got to look that up. If Darius Perry played in that game, Darius Perry could say he is the Tallahassee killer then because he's got like 2 wins on his resume. That's pretty good.
It's also just nuts to me that like was it 2017-18? Is that the year that Louisville?
Yeah, that's what it says here. That's what it was said by Dylan here on our chat. Dylan Payne.
So that was
Mike Dottie says Louisville was 22-14, Virginia was 31-3, and Duke was 32-6.
And Louisville won that game 73-69.
Yep.
Darius Perry came off the bench. He played 6 minutes. He had a rebound and he had a foul, but he was in the game. He played 6 minutes.
It counts, and he came off the bench. It's like Dawkins knew. It's good luck charm. Just play Darius Perry against anytime you play at FSU. Like next year, what year is Perry in? Is he a senior?
Yeah, he's a senior.
All right, so I mean, he could come back in theory, right?
I mean, everyone could come back, right? Yeah.
If he comes back, just bring him off the bench next year when we play him at Sunrise.
But like, how crazy is that list, right? Like, the teams that have beaten Florida State in the Tucker Center, Louisville, a championship contender, 1 seed, Virginia, and Duke with the Zion and Barrett, like, and now UCF. Oh, these things are all very much alike.
I'm wondering, I'll have to look back later and I'll have the answer for the podcast, or maybe I'll tweet it out. Like the last non-conference loss, I'm pretty sure it was like a Florida team. It might have been a Billy Donovan Florida team going back that far. Who knows? That's a long time. God. I mean, that Louisville team was Rick Pitino, for crying out loud. That's been a while.
And I was trying to see like what they did that season. I'm so wrapped up in the history of that. Like that stat blows my mind. That UCF is now on that list. Louisville that year finished behind Virginia. They were actually not that good. They were actually 9-9 in conference, 22-14 overall. But hell, they beat Florida State.
Yeah, they're pretty good. That's for sure. Let's see here. And do we think that the layoff was better for this team now, as it turns out, than playing?
That is absolutely unknown. You can't say one way or the other. Like, that is kind of reactive. Like, if they had lost this game, we'd be saying, well, they've been off for 2 weeks. They were kind of rusty. Like, now if they win, it's like, well, it must have been great for them because. So I don't know. I can't ascribe anything to that, really.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. I mean, right? Because if they lose, Coach Dawkins told me when I asked him this week on media availability, he would rather play games because you get a rhythm and things. So, I think clearly this team learned a lot from the Michigan game, though. I think that's clear, and I think they get the message loud and clear.
Johnny Dawkins was basically laughing on the post-game presser about how much this team has been rebounding in practice over the last 2 weeks. He's like, yeah, I'll tell you what, we've been doing a lot of rebounding, and it showed tonight against one of the best rebounding teams in the nation. Yeah, it showed.
So here's a good question: do you see Darius Perry continue to come off the bench, or do you think he starts? That's kind of tricky, right? Like, what do you think Dawkins does here? Does he bring him off the bench against Cincinnati still, and maybe start him on the 30th? Do you think he keeps him off coming off the bench, or do you think he starts him as soon as Tuesday?
Yeah, I don't know. It depends on when he feels like he's back in basketball shape. But whenever that happens, he's starting right away. He's the one. He's going to be the one going forward. They don't want Dre Fuller at the point. They're only playing him out of necessity because they had nobody else. But with Perry back, he's the one. And it's all about him just getting back in shape. And whenever that happens, whether it's Tuesday or whether it's the following week, he's back in the starting lineup, and then they'll move Fuller. I would move forward to the bench, which is fine. He's done that before, and he's a really good 6th, 7th man.
All right, so give me if not that this would happen, but what the heck? I mean, we're doing a show 30 minutes past midnight. So Murph, if Johnny Dawkins were to call you and say, Murph, who do you think I should start? What would you tell me?
I mean, I think we saw it tonight, but you switch out Fuller for Perry. Green at the 2. He's always going to be at the 2. Mahan's at the 3. You have Walker at the 4 Adams at the 4 and Walker at the 5.
And that's tough because you could argue Fuller's their best defender. Great two-way player. I think you're probably right. I think we can agree that's going to be your first 6, right? Like whoever doesn't start is your first guy off the bench.
If you're gonna lobby for Dre Fuller to be in the starting lineup, then I believe you're going to put Mahan on the bench.
That's going to be hard,
because,
man.
Because they're not starting Dre Fuller at the point. They're starting Darius Perry when he's ready.
And Green is going to start. He's
Green's the 2.
Yeah,
absolutely the 2. And then Dre, although he can play the 4, we've seen him because he's a big enough. He's got enough bulk to play like smaller 4s. They're not going to start him at the 4. They're going to go with especially after tonight. Like Adams isn't going anywhere, guys. I mean, I think if this hour has told you anything, it's that. Oh my God, Isaiah Adams. And then you have CJ at the 5. He took the tip tonight too, so he'll be at the 5. So if you're going to start Dre Fuller, then you're putting Brandon Mahan on the bench. Basically, pick and choose that.
The last time Florida State lost by 12 or more was December. Let's see here. Was December 3rd of 2019. That was at Indiana. That was part of the ACC Big Ten Challenge. That was the previous year. I get lost track now with everything with this year, but that was December of 2019. They didn't lose by 12 that much at all the rest of last year. That was the last time. That was Indiana. I remember that game was in Bloomington. You don't just do that to a Leonard Hamilton team. I mean, that's impressive. Hopefully they can carry this over, right? Because the question will be that letdown. You're facing Cincinnati. How is this young group going to handle this? Because we're patting them on the back. I'm going out of my mind. I'm calling Isaiah Mr. UCF basketball. They got to block all that out. They got to block me out. They got to. Yeah. I would just mute me and just focus on Cincinnati. Right. I think the interesting thing is how does this team handle maturity? Because I remember last year when they beat Cincinnati in triple overtime, we're like, wow, that's going to be incredible. And then they followed that up with the loss to Tulane. Right. So that's the big concern going into Cincinnati on Tuesday, which I don't care what Cincinnati's record says. I got to believe they're going to be ready to play on Tuesday, right? Like that's going to be a fight.
Sure. I think what's funny is this hour, I have become everything that I hate in sports journalism. I have become emotionally reactive to one data point. I have now ascribed massive conclusions about a team, about players after one basketball game. That is dangerous. That is bad journalism. It is bad punditry. It happens all the time on like news networks and sports networks. People do this all the time. This is how people get ratings. You react strongly to one data point, and that is the worst thing you can do. But here we are.
Admit it. You're having fun with it. You're enjoying it, though. You're enjoying it.
It feels good right now, Eric. This feels really good. That this is possible.
How about this? In FSU, boy, Mike Dowdy is just drilling some stats now, too. In FSU's last 36 games, they have allowed 80 points or more just 4 times during those 36 games. UCF is now part of that list.
Yikes.
And I was thinking, hey, 135 over under. That sounds like a good under to me. What do you always say about sports?
What you can't predict sports. I mean,
sports, yeah.
Sports is.
Oh my goodness! All right, so UCF will host Cincinnati on Tuesday. That's a 4:00 game. Make a note of that. It's a 4:00 game. Murph will not be in the building. You
once again. So get ready for UCF to put up like 150 points because I won't be there. I am so pissed. Dan Porcella, who's the basketball SID, is gonna give me heck about this when I see him in Boca. On Tuesday, because I told him for a long time I wanted to go to the FSU game. Then the time comes out, and I go like, wait. I'm not going to FSU for a night game and then staying over, and then I got Heupel in the morning. Yes, we got to talk to Heupel at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. So I'm not going up there for that. And whatever. It's only one of the best UCF games in the past few years.
Yeah, it's one of the more historic wins in their regular season in program history against great program like Florida State. That's oh man, that's but hey, you get media availability on Sunday, so you got that.
That's great.
That's great. So you're going to be at the stadium in Boca on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So you're not going to be watching much of this game because you're probably going to be watching who's playing on the football side.
Yeah.
So there's that, I guess. I'm not sure. I think we're doing a bowl preview show at some point. But just in case, can you give a smidge quick thoughts here before you head out, before we wrap this up here, as far as the football game is concerned? Because that's going to be an interesting day Tuesday, with obviously the attentions will turn over to football.
Yeah, I've been watching so much BYU film these last couple of days, just really impressed. Like, I think I was already impressed with Zach Wilson, but man, he's got some Josh Allen in him, where he's mobile, throws on the run, throws across his body, but he still makes it work. They've got some big dudes down by the goal line. Isaac Rex, the big tight end, who looks kind of like a fat Gronk, he's just a really big dude that's gonna cause UCF some problems defensively. So I worry about UCF's defense in this game, especially since they won't have Aaron Robinson, who, for those who don't know, Aaron has signed with an agency to go to the next level. So Aaron's not going to play in this game, and I assume Richie Grant won't play, but we don't know that yet. And obviously Marlon Williams won't play. Is Otis Anderson going to play? We don't know. Apparently Landon Woodson and Stephon Zayas are both injured. We don't know if they're going to play or not. Doesn't sound great. So I worry about this defense getting enough stops against this BYU offense. I don't have any problems with UCF's offense. I think UCF's offense will do fine. But like, as we said on Wednesday on the podcast, like, I don't know if the over-under has changed, but whatever the over-under is, it's not high enough at 70. It needs to be more than that.
I just hope it's as more as fun as this basketball game was. That's all. I want entertainment. I want fun.
Yeah. That game's gonna have a lot. That game's gonna have a lot of points. For sure. I'm not sure if UCF's gonna win that game like they won this game, but it's gonna have a lot of points.
Well, regardless, we got exciting basketball ahead of us. Both the men, and a shout out to the women's team who won at Tulsa today. Something that men's basketball and football can't do ever. Just win at Tulsa. So don't take that lightly. I mean, how blessed are we right now with Coach Abe and Coach Dawkins and the job they've done with those respective programs? Both of them with some marquee wins early in the season. The women beat Virginia and beat one at LSU. Now the men follow that up with a win against Auburn and an opener now at FSU. I mean, this gives you some things to look for here moving forward. I mean, I'm not going to get into what does that mean. I have some questions about the post-NCAA tournament. We're way early for that. Way early. But it's promising. I mean, if I would have told you when the schedule came out that this team is going to have a win on their wins in their belt over Auburn and Florida State, I would have said you were drinking, and I would have said there's no way, and I would have said I would have taken that in a heartbeat, right? Like, this is pretty awesome.
Well, when the schedule came out, people were like, "Oh, so we're going to start 0-6, right?" Like, I mean, it was feasible when you saw the opponents, and obviously the Houston game gets rescheduled, but they're 2-1, and the Michigan game was really bad. But the other two games were really impressive. The Auburn win was really, really impressive. It wasn't like they squeaked that one out. That was a really good game for UCF, and this one was a better game for UCF. So, it's uplifting. And then, so I can't wait for them to break our hearts on Tuesday, and all these takes look like junk.
The difference is most of the attention will be on the football. And speaking of which, we will be on probably around the same time after the football game on Tuesday night. This is like a good warm-up for the football pregame there. Andrew Glukoff will join me for that. We'll be on after the BYU game. Murph will join us after he's done with media availability from somewhere in – what's that stadium called?
It's FAU Stadium. It's a very inventive name. It's FAU Stadium.
Oh, Lord. So you'll be somewhere in that stadium. Is that a good – I mean, you were there last year for Dylan Gabriel's first start. Is that a media-friendly stadium, or what do we got here?
It doesn't have a very big press box.
Sweet.
So they've done media. They're going to do media overflow for this game, which is actually going to put some media in the stands, like in one of the end zones. They've set up media seating in the stands. And I've now been accredited with both locations. I have credentials for both the box and the stands. I don't know why. I think I'm going to choose this box because I don't want to be outside.
Yes. Yeah, I want to check the weather before making that decision.
Anyway.
All right. That's another comment before we go here. We give FSU a quarterback. We also give them an L. See. What did Luke Sarah say? Like, what did Luke tweet out? Like,
I think Luke said, like, this is for taking Milton or something like that. Yeah.
There you go. The Milton Bowl. Maybe we could have Mackenzie be the honorary captain or something.
I'm so sorry I didn't ask Johnny Dawkins. So, Johnny, were you guys motivated by FSU taking Mackenzie Milton away from UCF?
Was he there tonight? Did you see him? No? I don't know.
Did you, Coach, how excited from talking to people at FSU, How excited are they to have Mackenzie Milton? Talk to me about that.
Oh, Lordy, Lord. Oh, okay. I think that's a good way to wrap it up, but what a note there. All right, so once again, UCF basketball Tuesday, 4 o'clock against Cincinnati, 7 o'clock football against BYU. Check out blackandgoldbanneret.com for all the details. Murph will be in Boca. Hello. He'll say hello from Boca. We will have a post-game night shift, probably around the same hours. Adrian Glukoff will join me. Murph will join us.
You know that game's gonna take 4 hours anyway. It's gonna be like 45, 41. It'll take 4 hours.
So you're saying that maybe we'll be starting the post-game show right around now, this start time now. Like
yeah.
That's probably true. But that's why we didn't even do this without caffeine. I'm fired up. I mean, I didn't even do that in caffeine.
This was natural. This was natural norepinephrine right here. Like this was like just hook it to my veins. UCF beating Florida State in basketball.
Certainly one tonight we will never forget anytime soon, folks. So hope we enjoyed it. Check out blackandgoldbanneret.com. This video will be up. Are you doing a post-game article on this? Or what are we doing? Are we just going to put the video up? What are we doing, Murph? You make the call here.
I think we're putting the video up because it's 12:30 and we've spent 70 minutes talking about this game.
I never thought we'd go that long, but all of you made that happen. So thank you all that chimed in and watched and tuned in. This was awesome for a basketball. We're going to do more of these, not after every basketball game, but we'll pick and choose. We will be on after the football game.
Whenever they beat Florida State, we'll be doing it. When they beat a ranked team, we'll be doing it.
In any sport, for that matter. Yes, if we beat them in every sport, we'll be there. But check out blackandgoldbanneret.com for all the details throughout as we get you set for that game. Of course, you can follow us at UCF_Banneret and like us on Facebook at blackandgoldbanneret. And make sure you follow Murph on Twitter, especially on Tuesday, because he'll tell you who's playing and who's not playing. Where, Murph?
FAU Stadium in Boca.
Your Twitter handler.
Where's my Twitter? I'm at spokes_Murphy.
There you go. I'm at Eric Lopez Elo. That'll do it, folks. Tonight, another great, exciting, historic edition of Night Shift, ladies and gentlemen. UCF victorious over number 15 ranked Florida State. Enjoy it, celebrate it. Awesome night. Knights win 86-74. For Brian, I'm Eric. We hope you've enjoyed this edition of Night Shift. Go Knights and charge on.